The Cold Lady. The blue fungal lamps cast an eerie, ghostly glow across the great hall of the Duergar. Rows of armored warriors stood shoulder to shoulder, their shields resting upon the stone floor, their helms tucked beneath their arms. Behind them, 8 heavily armored bearers strained beneath a platform of black iron and polished basalt. Upon it stood Lystar, silent, beautiful, frozen in stone. Thane Karvik Stone Eye stepped before his warriors, the blue light reflected from the polished silver vein running through his stone eye. "Dwarves of the deep," he began, his voice echoing through the cavern. "Today we march against odds that would make lesser folk doubt the very stone from which they were hewn." He slowly turned toward the statue. "But we are not lesser folk." With a sweeping gesture, he unveiled Lystar fully before the assembled host. "I present to you the Lady of Victory." A murmur swept through the ranks. "She shall go before us into battle. She shall witness our triumph. She shall remind every warrior that our enemies are already broken." Karvik stepped closer to the edge of the platform. "You speak of empty granaries. You speak of dwindling food stores." His voice rose. "After today, there shall be no more talk of hunger." He pointed toward the statue. "Our Cold Lady shall lead us to victory." For a heartbeat, the hall remained silent. Then a single voice cried out, "Cold Lady!" Another answered, "Cold Lady!" Within moments, the entire army thundered in unison. "Cold Lady! Cold Lady! Stone Priestess! Cold Lady! Cold Lady! Stone Priestess!" The chant shook dust from the cavern ceiling. Far across the battlefield, beyond jagged columns of black stone and forests of towering luminous mushrooms, another army gathered. The yellow glow of bioluminescent fungi washed over thousands of goblin warriors packed shoulder to shoulder. Their war chief listened to the distant chanting. Then he laughed. A deep, ugly laugh. He turned to his lieutenant. "So this Karvik Stone Eye believes his 1,000 Duergar can stand against 3,000 goblins?" His lieutenant grinned, exposing rows of jagged teeth. "It seems so, war chief." The goblin laughed harder. "Excellent." He climbed atop a boulder so the horde could see him. "Listen well, you mangy sons of the caves." Thousands of yellow eyes turned toward him. "Today you feast," a roar answered him. "You'll drink the dwarves' finest ale." The roar grew louder. "You'll empty their wine cellars." Weapons pounded against shields. "You'll carry away their gold, their jewels, and every treasure they've hidden beneath these mountains." The horde erupted into wild cheers. The goblin war chief grinned. "And if any of you find a pretty little stone lady," he shrugged, "bring her to me." Laughter rolled through the goblin ranks. Moments later, the two armies surged toward one another. Steel rang against steel. War picks shattered shields. Spears splintered. Axes bit deep. The goblins had expected exhausted miners, weakened by hunger and desperate to survive. Instead, they met a wall of iron. The Duergar fought with terrible discipline, every shield locking into the next, every swing measured, every advance relentless. At the center of their formation, the platform bearing the Lady of Victory moved steadily forward. Again the chant arose. "Cold Lady! Cold Lady! Stone Priestess!" The sound echoed through the caverns. The goblin line faltered. Then it bent. Then it broke. As they fled into the glowing forests of fungus, many looked back only once. There, unmoving upon her black iron platform, stood the silent Stone Maiden. From that day forward, many among the goblins whispered that the Duergar marched beneath the blessing of a cold goddess from the deep. Far above, beneath the green canopy of the evergreen wood, an arrow hissed through the trees. It flew straight for Gwondor's head. Before it could strike, Mysaides raised one hand. A brilliant disk of golden light blossomed into existence with a sharp metallic hum. The arrow shattered against it. Gwondor drew his bastard sword. "Wizard," he growled. "You might have mentioned they would react this way." Another arrow streaked toward Mysaides. This time, Gwondor swept his sword through the air and knocked it aside before it reached the wizard. "Of course they reacted this way," Mysaides replied. "You knew. You are carrying a relic from their sacred lightning oak. You neglected to mention that. I imagined that once they learned you were risking everything to save one of their own people, they might choose compassion." Gwondor glanced toward the advancing elves. "They appear to have chosen violence." "Yes." Mysaides frowned thoughtfully. "I seem to have misjudged them." Half a dozen elves drew their long blades and rushed forward. Rather than answer with blood, Mysaides whispered a single ancient word. The forest answered. Roots burst from the earth. Vines exploded upward, twisting around boots, legs, and sword arms until the charging elves found themselves tangled together, cursing in elegant elvish. Gwondor lowered his blade. "I would rather not kill them." "So would Lystar." Mysaides agreed. Gwondor looked back at him. "And what do you suppose she will think when she discovers I have apparently defiled her people's sacred grove and fought half their forest guard?" Mysaides considered this. "Not ideal." "Not ideal?" "No." He stroked his moss beard thoughtfully. "Such is often the price of love." Gwondor knocked two charging elves together with the flat of his sword. "They will tell stories about this." "They certainly will. I have spent more gold, more time and more effort on this quest than anything else I have ever done." Another elf lunged. Gwondor twisted aside, struck the warrior's wrist, and sent the sword spinning harmlessly into the brush. "And we are still no closer." Mysaides nodded sympathetically. "Love is terribly inefficient." Across the glade, a figure in emerald robes emerged. Unlike the others, he carried no sword, only a long ash staff crowned with crystal. The elven mage extended his hand. A narrow violet ray leapt across the clearing and struck Gwondor squarely in the chest. The barbarian stopped. He reached for his sword. It refused to move. It suddenly weighed as much as an anvil. "Oh," said Mysaides. "Bother." Gwondor strained. "I cannot lift it." "No. Help." "The spell is actually rather clever." Mysaides. "Yes? Help." "Oh. Quite." The wizard produced a shaving of bull's horn and a strand of crimson hair. He whispered a few hurried syllables. Golden sparks danced across Gwondor's shoulders. The impossible weight vanished. The barbarian lifted his sword again with ease. "I preferred that." So did I. The elven mage was already casting another spell. Lightning exploded from his staff. Mysaides smiled. "Now that is interesting." He tossed a polished silver sphere covered with tiny mirrored facets into the air. The lightning struck it. Instead of exploding, the sphere began spinning furiously. Music rang through the forest. Bright, chiming notes. Electricity danced from mirror to mirror before bursting outward in a web of blue light that illuminated every tree in the glade. The elves stopped in astonishment. Mysaides smiled proudly. "I have been meaning to test that." "You chose now?" It seemed educational. Another volley of arrows flew. Gwondor batted one aside. "You know," Mysaides said conversationally, "a wise man once said that if your enemy strikes one cheek, you should turn the other." "I would not recommend trying that here." "What gave you that impression?" Gwondor slammed two charging elves together with the flat of his sword. "They seem unusually committed." "Fair point." The wizard looked around. "We appear to be surrounded." "I noticed." "They cannot strike what they cannot see." Gwondor stared at him. "And you waited until now?" "I was hoping you might first appreciate just how expensive love can become." "I already knew that." "Oh." Mysaides looked faintly embarrassed. "Then I have delayed for no reason whatsoever." He sighed. That is disappointing. With a lazy flick of his fingers, mist rolled across the glade. Another word followed. The world blurred. When the elves charged again, there was no one left to strike. Marshal Varric was not pleased. He had witnessed the battle from beginning to end. It had been fierce, certainly. The dark dwarves had fought with courage worthy of song. But there had been no mystery in their victory, and no blessing from Karvik's stone idol. The explanation was simple. Behind the Duergar line lay a chasm. Retreat meant death. Their homes, their families, and their dwindling stores lay ahead. There had been nowhere to go but forward. And yet, even Varric could not dismiss what he had seen. 1,000 Duergar had entered the battle against 3,000 goblins. When the wounded were counted, there were only a few broken bones, shallow cuts, and minor burns. The warriors had fought with a fervency that tired, starving dwarves should not have possessed. Now the victors crowded into the great hall, laughing and drinking beneath the blue glow of the fungal lamps. Karvik sat upon his throne with a pleased grin crossing his beard. Beside him stood the Lady of Victory, raised upon her platform of black iron and basalt. One by one, the soldiers approached. Each surrendered a portion of his plunder, each knelt. Each kissed the cold stone hand of the lady and placed an offering at her feet. Coins, blades, goblin trinkets, polished gems, and bits of battered armor accumulated around the silent maiden. "You see, my friends," Karvik called. "So long as she remains with us, we shall pass from victory to victory and from plunder to plunder." The warriors raised their drinking horns. "Today, an army of goblins fell before us," Karvik continued. "Tomorrow, even the drow shall feel our wrath." A murmur passed through the hall. Karvik rose and pointed toward the stone maiden. "The Spider Queen is nothing. Lolth herself is nothing beside our Lady of Victory." The Duergar erupted. "Cold Lady! Cold Lady! Stone Priestess!" Casks of goblin beer were broken open. No doubt the goblins had stolen them from some surface encampment. The drink was thin, bitter, and unusually strong. The Duergar drank deeply. For the first time in many months, merriment filled the hall. Varric alone remained troubled. He approached the throne and bowed. "My Thane." Karvik raised his goblet. "Marshal, drink. Today, even you are permitted to smile." Varric ignored the invitation. "What is to be done with the prisoners?" Karvik leaned back upon his throne. "We shall solve two problems with one stroke." Varric waited. "The goblins shall be brought before the lady. Those who kiss her hand and swear allegiance to her shall enter the mines. Our own miners will be freed to join the army." Varric's brow furrowed. "Goblins? Mining our deepest veins? They have strong backs. They are treacherous creatures. They shall serve the lady. My Thane, placing hundreds of armed goblins beneath our city, it is the will of the lady." The hall seemed to quiet around them. Karvik's stone eye glinted in the fungal light. "Do you question her will, Marshal?" Varric stared at the silent figure beside the throne. Her stone face offered no command, no blessing, no warning. He lowered his head. "No, my Thane." Karvik smiled. "Good." Varric turned away. "Her will be done," he said through clenched teeth. Later that night, while the celebrations continued, Varric summoned one of his most trusted lieutenants. "Only the strongest prisoners are to be sent into the mines," he ordered. "And the others? The wounded, the weak, and any who appear likely to cause trouble are to be executed. The lieutenant hesitated. Does the Thane know? The Thane has given me command of his armies and the defense of his halls. Varric looked toward the distant sound of chanting. Should there be a rebellion in the deep mines, it will be my soldiers who must descend to crush it. Not the Thane. The lieutenant bowed. And the bodies? Dispose of them beyond the western chasm. Yes, Marshal. As the lieutenant departed, another chant rolled through the stone corridors. Cold Lady! Cold Lady! Stone Priestess! Varric looked toward the great hall. For the first time, he wondered whether the statue truly had changed something. Not upon the battlefield, within Karvik. Gwondor was wet, exhausted, and barely possessed the strength to gather the logs, sticks, and kindling needed for a fire. He dropped the last armful beside the campsite and glared at the wizard. Why do you always wait until the final possible moment to do something useful? Mysaides looked up from beneath the moonlight. It was only a half moon, yet his eyes gleamed beneath it. You could have made us invisible before we took the piece of the blasted tree, Gwondor continued. Instead, you waited until we were surrounded before arranging our escape. True, Mysaides said. Entirely true. Gwondor waited. Mysaides smiled. But what would have been the fun in that? Half-elf, you are more trouble than you are worth. I have been told. I find myself in constant dilemmas because of you. Dilemmas? Mysaides appeared genuinely offended. You would still be wasting away in some prison, serving as lackey to that useless sheriff had I not given you direction. For that, Gwondor the Gargantuan, you should thank me. Things could hardly be worse. They could always be worse. How? I am now an enemy of the elves. Gwondor pointed toward the dark forest behind them. Not merely any elves, the Cedarwood elves, the people of my beloved Lystar. Well, should you eventually marry her, or rather, should you succeed in capturing her heart, these difficulties are quite normal. Normal? The family rarely approves of the prospective in-law, particularly when humans and elves are involved. Mysaides settled beside the unlit fire. Just ask my father. He paused. And my mother, for that matter. Gwondor stared at him. There is clearly a story behind that. There is, but I am too exhausted to hear it. Mysaides looked disappointed. For a moment, he also looked hurt. I thought you rather enjoyed my stories. I do. Do you? Yes. Mysaides gazed into the darkness. Probably could not remember it properly anyway. It was such a long time ago. For the first time, it occurred to Gwondor that he had no idea how old the half-elf was. He opened his mouth to ask. Then he glanced at the moon and decided it might be wiser to let sleeping dogs lie. Silence settled over the camp. Mysaides endured it for nearly half a minute. You know, Gwondor, he said at last, a wise man once said that no one can serve two masters. He will hate one and love the other, or cling to one and despise the other. He reached into his small traveling bag. From it, he removed a bowl far larger than the bag should have been able to contain. Then came a sack of dried oats. Then 2 generous clumps of butter. Then a jug of milk. Gwondor watched as Mysaides poured everything into the bowl and rested it atop the bag. Steam immediately began to rise. Mysaides stirred. So which one is your master? Gwondor frowned. What? The quest or the prize at the end of it? Lystar is not a prize. Good. Mysaides stirred again. Then what happens when she awakens and discovers she can choose? Gwondor straightened. She will see everything I have done, everything I have sacrificed, everything I have endured." He looked pointedly at Mysaides. "Especially you." Touching. "She will know I am a man of worth, a man of honor." "Will she?" "Yes." Mysaides considered this. Fascinating. He peered into the bowl. "Are you fond of porridge?" "No." "No? I prefer meat." "Of course you do. I would give much for venison." "Interesting." Mysaides plucked a piece of moss from his beard. "That presents quite a dilemma." He whispered to the moss and dropped it into the bowl. The porridge began to sizzle. Then it bubbled. Its pale color darkened. Before Gwondor's eyes, the oats became thick broth, chunks of root vegetable, and generous pieces of venison. Gwondor leaned closer. "Venison stew, apparently. You did that intentionally." "Mostly." Mysaides handed him the bowl. "I learned the trick in a place far away. The Odd Den, I believe it was called." "The Odd Den? Wonderful country." Mysaides frowned. Terrible food. Far too much salt, though one did tend to sweat it out rather efficiently. Gwondor examined the stew. "This is not enchanted in some way that will cause me to awaken with a third leg or an additional arm." "Oh no." Gwondor relaxed. "At least, I do not think so." Gwondor stopped. Mysaides shrugged. "One never knows with magic. It is terribly unpredictable. That is part of its charm." Gwondor continued staring into the bowl. "I once attended a wedding," Mysaides continued, "where someone transformed water into the finest wine I have ever tasted." "That sounds useful." "Very. Can you do it?" "Oh no." Mysaides shook his head. "That is far beyond my abilities." "Just as well. I am too tired to become drunk." Gwondor tasted the stew. It was excellent. He disliked that. "So," he said, "have you determined where we are going to find a dryad?" Mysaides looked toward the trees. "I do not personally know any dryad with particularly tender hearts." "That does not answer the question. Perhaps luck will favor us." "That also does not answer the question." Mysaides reached down and picked up a stick. "I once saw a remarkable swordsman use this method." "What method?" Mysaides threw the stick into the air. It turned end over end, struck the ground, bounced once, and settled with one end pointing southeast. "There," Mysaides said. Gwondor looked in that direction. "The bog lies southeast." Mysaides nodded solemnly. "Then the stick knows better than I do." Condensation gathered along the ceiling of the catacomb and fell in a slow, persistent rhythm. Drip. Elkar's face twitched. Drip. It twitched again. The novelty of his encounter with that exceedingly strange pair, Gwondor and Mysaides, had long since faded. Once more, Elkar found himself surrounded by the dreary furnishings of his subterranean abattoir. Stained stone tables, rusting instruments, and narrow channels carved into the floor to carry away blood and other less identifiable fluids. Yet the chamber no longer smelled entirely of death. Elkar looked fondly upon the little green object hanging from an iron hook beside his work table. It was flat, shaped like a pine tree, and fashioned from some cheap, fibrous material. A thin cord passed through a hole at its crown, and faded lettering remained printed across its surface in a style unlike any script he knew. He lifted it to his nose and breathed deeply. Pine flooded his nostrils. The smell of rotting flesh nearly vanished beneath it. The mad wizard was not so mad after all, Elkar chuckled. Mysaides had produced the object from a clear, crinkling wrapper decorated with bright colors and blocky lettering. Elkar had assumed it to be some minor trinket acquired beside a distant road, perhaps sold among lamp oil, salted meat, and other necessities for weary travellers. Before handing it over, however, the half-elf had whispered something to it. At the time, Elcar had paid little attention. Mysaides whispered to nearly everything. Elcar turned the little tree between his thick golden fingers. Its scent had not weakened in the slightest. Most perfumes surrendered to the air. Oils dried, flowers withered, incense burned away. Even the finest aromatic resins eventually lost their strength. Yet days after its wrapper had been torn open, the little tree remained as potent as ever. The fragrance had spread through the catacombs, settling into every corridor and chamber. At times, Elcar could almost imagine himself walking through a forest beneath cool green branches. Not that Elcar often walked through forests. His corpulent frame made such excursions unnecessarily strenuous. Still, the illusion was pleasant. For a moment, he considered studying the object. Perhaps its fibers possessed unusual alchemical properties. Perhaps the half-elf's muttering had done more than Elcar first assumed. Then he dismissed the thought. By Thursday, it will smell of nothing. He returned it to the hook. Still, well worth the price for a few days' respite. He chuckled to himself. The entrance bell rang. Elcar turned. A man stood beneath the archway, shrouded from head to foot in layers of grey cloth. No face could be seen beneath the folds of his hood, only a darkness deeper than the surrounding shadows. The stranger entered without invitation. "My master has been informed," he hissed, "that you possess the blood and hair of a mountain barbarian." Elcar sighed. "Yes, I do." He waddled behind the stone counter and rested both hands upon it. "But such material is quite valuable. The tribe from which it came is renowned for its strength and resilience, and this particular specimen was exceptional even among them." The grey-robed figure remained motionless. "He wielded a two-handed bastard sword with one hand," Elcar continued. "A truly remarkable creature. Gargantuan, you might say." Elcar's silver-grey eyes narrowed. "Indeed." The visitor knew more than he should. Elcar forced a smile across his broad, golden face. "And what does your master propose to offer for such valuable stock?" The stranger reached beneath his robes and withdrew a folded letter bound in black cord. He placed it upon the counter. Elcar glanced down at the dark wax seal. His smile vanished. Pressed into the wax was an emblem he had not seen in many years. A skeletal hand closed around a broken crown. For the first time in longer than Elcar could remember, fear entered his heart.